Sweet. I like that little voice. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah, I could hear you. Yeah, it was
Nice.
like, got it or get me the fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to be recorded. I don't want this for posterity.
Right. So I had this idea. There's another league I'm in that started doing podcasts, and
Hmm.
I listened to them on replay. I haven't had a chance to watch them live, streaming through Twitch, and I love the content that they're digging into. Sometimes it's a little too deep for me. Like I'm not
Hmm.
a total analytical genius or nerd, and while I appreciate it, I definitely sometimes have to use a dictionary to figure out what some of the things still are. But one of the things I was kind of thinking might be cool with a bunch of different leagues, and each league containing 30 GMs or so, and we have this little life and community in each Slack channel, is to find a way to meet a GM basically. So maybe it kind of activates some portions of the league and gets people involved, and we learn a little bit about each other, and as much as we can uh talk shit and have some fun and combat in these Slacks, I think anytime we can make it human and personable, there's an advantage to that. So I appreciate you taking your time.
Oh, no problem. I
Yeah.
I agree. It's anytime you can try to get more people involved, and like you said, put more of a human face to the personality. You're just looking at their words, but now you can actually hear what they sound like, and they can get more in depth than what some people like typing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's such a beauty to the quickness of any like text format and communication, but the definitely the issue that we find is that the context is always tricky. Well, often
Yeah.
tricky. So,
Mhm.
someone might take something a little bit snippy when the other person just being funny. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
this helps a little bit.
I
So yeah,
agree.
I appreciate you being the guinea pig and
Oh, no problem.
walking through this. Yeah. I might be leaning on you with your past podcast experience.
Yeah, no problem. It's like I said, it's all trial and error. It took me probably 4 or 5 episodes before I felt like I knew what I was doing, but there's lots of stuff I didn't know, and
Right, right.
you just learn along the way. People will be patient.
Yeah, and I
If not,
appreciate
fuck
that.
them. They're not paying anything for it.
Right, yeah. Well, I did ask a couple questions with the GM in the one league who was running it, and I started looking into like some of those platforms and recording devices. I'm like, you know what? I don't have the time at the moment. Let me just try something I'm comfortable with. And obviously once we got these audio issues kind of sorted, then that seemed to help. But
Yep.
yeah, man, let's dig into this. So I have a bunch of questions as I shared and spoke about, and I do want to dig into the OTP aspect of stuff. But and you and I, have obviously done this before briefly, like when you first joined the league. I know
Yep.
you and I met through um, the Stats Plus Slack, I believe. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, got you involved in one of the leagues and got you hooked, and now we're in a bunch together. So,
Uh-huh.
um, and I remember certain details, but can you tell us a little bit, like where you live and stuff like that, like a little quick synopsis?
Yeah, I'm 40 years old, or getting older every day. I live in Michigan in the Thumb with my wife, who is very patient with me, and uh, I was a general manager of a convenience store, restaurant, gas station for many years until heart conditions made it so I could no longer work. The goal is eventually get back to work somewhere, but it's a process of figuring out why the heart issues keep on happening.
Yeah,
So as far as that goes, that's why, if anyone wonders why I'm around all the time, well, because I don't have anything to do, so I just
yeah,
sit here and fart around looking at my leagues all day and
yeah.
slowly descend into madness.
I'm sure there's a blessing and a curse mixed in all that.
Oh yeah.
The grass is always greener. I'm sure that those that wish they had the time to do that, once they're there, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's
Yeah. Once
struggles
you're
that go
in
with it.
in it, yeah, it's your days kind of blend together and months blend together. You know
Yeah,
how that is if
yeah,
anyone's ever spent prolonged time away from work.
yep. Yeah, well, I think the pandemic obviously gave a lot of us some insight into that, and I work partially from home, a good portion from home, I should say. And so, there's that tricky balance between, life and work, and the days kind of blending together, and, fast pace
Hmm.
versus slow pace. So I get it. And do you live in the area like where you grew up, like the general vicinity?
Yeah, I was born in this area, but my father worked for General Motors,
Okay.
and about the time I was just a couple months old, GM went through a massive layoff, and they told my father, "You can either be laid off for 3 years, or if you join the army, you'll get time served for the time in the army because we won't be paying unemployment." So it was a weird setup they had back then. So I spent my first 3 years or 4 years over in Fort Ord, California.
Hmm.
And then we came back here to Michigan for a couple, like maybe 6 months. And they told my dad, "Well, pack up because you're moving out to New York."
Hmm. Okay.
And we spent time in New York. And then we finally moved back here when I was fifth or sixth grade. So,
Yeah. Nice, man. I know there's a couple people I believe in the league from Michigan, and I don't know enough of the locations. I know you mentioned the Thumb area, but I know definitively that Michael, our
yeah, Mike
Diamondbacks
from
GM.
Diamondbacks.
Correct. Yeah, I know he's there. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I've talked to him before. I can't remember. I think he lives down toward Detroit, which would be a couple hours south of me.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So does that put you as in the sports world as an all kind of Michigan fan, or what's your
Well,
sports fandom?
that's the part of the thing about jumping back and forth when I was a young kid, when a lot of kids probably formed their allegiances to
Yeah.
teams. The one team I was always allegiant for was the Tigers.
Okay.
That's my baseball team,
I do remember that. I
ride or
remember that.
die.
Yeah, that era of Trammell and
Yeah,
Whitaker
oh
and stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And but as far as the other sports, Dallas Cowboys is my football team. And
All
I
right.
follow Detroit Lions a little bit more than what I used to.
Yeah.
I would call myself a fan, but I'll watch their games every week because it's on TV. But my first love will always be the Cowboys.
Okay. Nice, man. Yeah, I have a weird fandom, which we'll eventually get into one of these podcasts, but I can appreciate that.
And
Uh,
weren't you a Phillies fan?
I am for baseball, I am a Phillies fan. However,
Yeah.
and I'm a Flyers fan for hockey. The rest of the fandom is kind of staggered, but
Okay.
even within those sports, baseball, as much as I'm a Phillies fan, I think I'm just more a fan of the game. So, even if the Phillies aren't in it, I'm still following the league. And
Oh yeah, me too. Because you know, I just something about the game of baseball just has me hooked. You can, if you ask my wife, I watch that hot stove every day.
yep, yep, yep.
I'm always on MLB trade rumors. I check that out about 10 times a day,
Yeah,
all year long.
that's great.
You
I know.
know,
I feel like such a junkie sometimes, where I really don't need a smartphone. I joke and sometimes say I'm not smart enough for a smartphone, because frankly, all I really want it for is the weather, the MLB app, and the text people. The calling portion I actually don't really want.
yeah.
but no matter what season it is, I find myself on MLB.com or the app. And yeah, so I don't know if it's something as I got older, but my baseball fandom has definitely continued to ascend, whereas everything else has kind of fallen off a little bit. But yeah. Cool, man.
Well,
Well, that's
that's a
awesome.
good thing.
Yeah, I think so. Same thing. My wife's relatively patient with it, and knows between fantasy and OTP and actual MLB that there's enough going on that
Uh
keeps me
huh.
happy. So cool. So kind of delving into going from baseball into OTP. I guess, how long have you been playing? And then was it online immediately? Was it solo? Like, what was your kind of progression there?
About last February, um, buddy of mine, Tommy, he's in the historic league that we're in, where
Yep,
I'm the
yep.
Tigers. He told me about this game that he had played years ago,
Yeah,
and he introduced me to it, and I'm like, I don't know, man, $20, and it
yeah,
doesn't seem like a lot to some people, but I'm on a budget every month, so
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I think I can swing it, because it's only $20, and then you're good for a year. I didn't know at the time it was only for a year. I
Right,
thought
right.
it was in perpetuity, but I'm like, yeah, I'll try it out because this is so very similar to a NCAA football game we used to play together in a
Okay.
simulation league.
So that was kind
So
of the selling point, that it's similar to that,
yeah,
except
it's
baseball.
in depth. I mean,
Right.
when I was younger, I used to me and my cousin would he would come over after work and we'd spend and I it started like 10 o'clock at night and we would go until 6 in the morning and we wouldn't actually play any games on our PS2. We would manage our teams,
Okay.
so
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
more that, I wasn't always the greatest playing it, but I had the mind for
Yeah, right,
building
right.
the teams, and I just found that part fascinating. So roundabout way of saying it, I'm just past a year
Okay,
playing
nice.
the game.
Yeah. Well, I definitely find that many people found, I think the pandemic really, had this game
Hmm.
with a boom. So I think in that vicinity makes sense. And then were you playing solo on your own, or did you jump right into online leagues?
Uh, we really wanted to do an online league together.
Yeah.
We were doing solo, for the first 3 or 4 months. He would have his league and I would have mine, and we would compete to see who would do. And then
Okay.
we're like, well, there's online
Yeah.
leagues.
Yeah.
Let's see about getting into one of them. So I scoured I think it was some sort of forums,
Yep. The OTP
OOTP
forums.
forums,
Yeah.
found a league, and then from there it just kind of I was able to find other leagues and get
Yeah,
us into them.
sliders in. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's how, that in back into our introduction, found you on Stats Plus, and now I think we're in at least 3 leagues together.
Yep, you're
So
the
yeah.
only 3 leagues I'm in.
Okay. All
Are,
right.
are your
Nice, man.
leagues?
That's
I
awesome.
was in 5 at one point. One died. One I had philosophical differences, and then your 3 leagues are awesome. You guys run a great,
I appreciate
league.
that. Thank you, man.
Consistency.
I have good people, that's been huge, and that's kind of what it's all about. Bringing us back to meet the GM idea, right? So
Yeah,
how do we
exactly.
yeah, keep good people around? That's awesome, man. And then so you're in the 3 now, and then in this particular league, our COVID league, and to give you a brief history, which I think I did before, but that started during COVID. It was kind of the same thing you were doing with Tommy as far as playing solo with a couple friends, and I figured, hey, let's try and find a way to link it together in online leagues, and trying to bridge that gap, and blah 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 blah. And so everything, I had no clue what to expect or how long it would go. And so just for something fun, we just called it the COVID Quarantine Baseball League, and here we are, thankfully somewhat further away from that, but the
Oh
name
yeah.
can't change.
No,
um
no.
yeah, so you took over the Cubs. So when we originally started the league, there was, I believe, 15, maybe 20 or so of us, that stemmed from just me and 4 other close friends. And then, through the forums and whatnot, found a couple other people. And we really just wanted to have a draft because we were all heavily involved in fantasy, and baseball was on hold, and there was no knowing when it was going to start. And so it was just another avenue to compete and draft. And so we had a live draft in the league, which meant that no team was as it was originally.
Okay, so everyone was started from zero, and you just picked
That's correct.
from all.
Yep. Yeah, which is kind
How
of
how
fun.
how long did that take?
A couple weeks, and
Okay.
so yeah, and a couple teams were on auto. I think 5 teams or so were on auto. And and again, being new at it with just a couple people who were kind of guiding us through there. One of the first people involved that had a heavy knowledge of the game and was a former commissioner was Keegan, who was Tampa Bay. And so he really kind of bridged a lot of the gaps that I had no clue what the hell was going on or how to do it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I think it took about 2.5 weeks or so, combination through Slack and obviously Stats Plus, the draft itself, and then texting people. So you'd see how long the regular drafts go.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think I would by the end of the like 4th or 5th day, I'd probably just lose my mind
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm not patient, and I'm trying to be better with that. And I realize that, like I've said, no one has the free time that I really have. But
It,
stuff
it
like that just drives me nuts when
Yeah, yeah, I get it, man. I fortunately I'm able to pull myself away a little bit, and
Yeah.
but I find the same frustrations here and there with the timing of it. But yeah, I know my schedule is different than someone else's, and I have the
Hmm.
luxury of checking on the computer or my phone a couple times a day, and other people might not. But
That's why I just
um,
give them shit because
right, yeah,
like I said,
added.
I'm the Statler and Waldorf of, I will
That's
mock
perfect.
you from the cheap seats.
Yeah, yeah. You and Tim are going to vie for that situation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
We are one and the same, I think.
right, right. That's good. Well, I'm glad because then you guys can get each other's humor without being offended.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so you took over in our COVID league here. You took over the Cubs, and they've been such a up and down team. And I wasn't sure if everyone has their little different approaches. Like I know Joey from FLG, one of the co-commissioners there, he doesn't mind taking over kind of rebuild teams, and I've kind of been adverse to that. I don't know if it's why exactly, although I'm in a rebuild or two now and I don't mind it as much. But do you have a preference? Do you like starting with a team from scratch? Do you not mind a rebuild? What's kind of your approach there?
I kind of prefer the
You
rebuild
do, okay.
because um when I came in with this one, he had four absolute stud pitchers.
Yeah,
And I couldn't identify with the team because these are just guys that are on my team, and I didn't really prefer, like the traits thing. I know
right.
everyone has their different little,
Preferences there, yeah.
twerks, but he had like every negative trait you could have, and I'm
Yeah,
like, I've heard everything I've read and everything I listened to said those guys will kill your locker room, and it'll,
makes it harder to win. Yeah,
makes it harder to win because they won't get along. And without knowing, and I still don't know very much about it, but so I'm like, I just started trading guys.
yeah.
Um, I believe the Mike Diamondbacks got two of my pitchers, and these
Okay.
guys were 70 rated pitchers, each of them,
Yeah,
but it helps, I also don't feel the pressure to be like, okay, I've got a good team, you know, not knowing what I'm doing, I don't want to mess it up. So I'm like, I'll just tear it down or tear it down as much as I can and try to build it back up. That's how I've been in every league, even
yeah.
the Tigers and the other league.
Right.
It's just I feel more comfortable because then, like I said, I can wrap my head around
Right. You own
my
it,
team better.
both
Yeah.
ways, for better or for worse. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I'm gonna guess, and this is strictly that a lot of people kind of feel the same way. That it gives them a sense of all the things you said, as well as like control with just knowing that whether they win or lose, at least it's your stamp on it.
Yeah.
Um, it's awesome. I mean, you have pretty good talent. I feel like right now, I mean, what would you say? Would you say that you're in a still rebuild mode? Are you in a, you know,
Still in a, I look at I have an issue with, I'm cheap in my
right,
regular everyday life. And I see all these free agents in these leagues making 20-30 million
right.
dollars. And I'm like,
You
why
relate
am
it
I
to real
paying a
life.
guy
Yeah.
with like a 50 some overall 25-30 million dollars?
Yeah.
That's not sustainable when you look at my budget.
Yeah.
Um, like I see I've got Corso and I've got Duran.
Yeah.
Those guys were two I would obviously love to trade before the trade deadline.
Expire. Right. Right.
And even Juarez, I mean, because he's just about to start making
Yeah.
big money, and I don't think I can afford him.
Yeah.
So I'd rather. And those were guys that were on my team when I took over.
Okay.
So I'm kind of working with the mentality of the Oakland A's.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. I can relate to that. I mean, I too often find myself being on the thriftier side of free agency, and especially with comp picks and things like
I mean,
that.
Angel Duran, I think he's a crack dealer. I mean, look at him. I mean, if I were to look at that guy and I would just pass him over, and I would probably lose. I mean, but look at, he's
Yeah.
had good seasons, but he's also had bad ones. I mean, last year he had one bad one, but in 2031, it's just they're so up and down, so you just don't know. And I'd rather have a guy that's good,
Yeah.
like good locker room guy.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I actually started with Duran here, as you see on the Dodgers, and then I traded him. I
Yeah,
think it was
yeah, that's right. Because you and I talked about trading
yeah,
before with him.
yeah. At the time, I was trying to compete and grab Mitch Keller, and that kind of busted out. But I did. At the time, I really loved his bars are just super impressive.
Hmm.
The guy can pitch. But I definitely was concerned at the time when I dealt him at a much younger age. Some of these attributes. But I mean, man, this is a beautiful set of tools.
Yeah, but
um,
for me, I don't really like guys without a fastball.
Yeah, it's funny. That's something that I early on never really paid attention to a couple things, right? So never really
Uh-huh.
cared or considered, I guess more accurately, the style of pitches.
Hmm.
And so as naive and as ridiculous as that sounds, yeah, I just never really paid that much attention to it, as well as early on, like some of the arm slots and things like that. So I started to pay a little more attention to that. And yeah, so I guess his cutter essentially is his fastball.
Yeah.
And then, the knuckle curve is the other beast there.
I mean,
Uh,
he pitches, like I said, he pitches well from time to time.
yeah.
Because he's fragile, I
Hmm.
have him set to 90 pitches a game
Okay.
because I found out he was getting injured way too much if I had it 100 or 110.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Because there would be, you know, I think that year he only had 24 starts. He got injured a couple times, but since then, as you can tell, he's pitched. And I
Yeah.
put him in the bullpen at times, depending on how he's done to save his arm. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I just really had to be careful because I'm worried that fragile guys, his arm's just going to fall
Yeah,
off.
totally. I kind of, it's a question I've had for myself recently with guys like this, where especially with like an expiring contract, and depending, what your goal is with them, whether it's resigning or put a
Hmm.
qualifying offer on them or trade them, is I'm curious to see how the game handles whether he gets more wear and tear by the up and down aspects of like being a pen arm, or the starts of 90 pitches. I assume the starts would give him more fits, being fragile, but
I go off of that on Stats Plus, that the stress pitches.
yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because like my buddy Tommy, he's in the other league. He's got Real Cormier. He pitches 140 pitches. I'm like, his
Oof.
arm is literally going to fall off.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he started having injury problems. I just pick up little bits of info here and there, and I'm like, okay,
Right,
I'd
adjust off
rather not
that.
have a guy go deep in the game, even
Yeah.
though my bullpen stinks, and that's probably cost me some games.
Yep.
But I'd rather have him all season than to wear his arm out. And
Yeah,
like
that
you
makes
said,
sense.
fragile.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I could be totally full of it. Like I said, I've had guys go on the injured list, who are durable too. So it's just a little bit of luck has to be involved
100%,
to make
100%.
it through
Yeah.
a season.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But I mean, Duran has been a beast. I mean, these numbers are super
Yeah.
impressive. So yeah, be interesting to see what you do.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening to this, Duran's
As
on the
a
market. I mean,
selling point, right? And
I'm a guy that'll trade anytime, anywhere. I
right,
mean,
yeah, this,
Corso, he's the guy I gave the qualifying offer to because I didn't want anyone else to get him in free agency. And look what he's doing for me. He's just awesome.
yeah, yeah, right. I see that. Yeah, he's pissed.
Well, well, and then last year he had a really, his ERA is a little deceiving, but his WAR was 2.6. I mean,
Yeah, no,
the
he's
guy
solid.
had been pitching well for me, so why wouldn't I bring him back on a
No, I
year
agree.
deal?
I agree. Yeah, it's interesting how he's really fallen off. I mean, obviously I'm in OSA here, but have you seen some of these numbers fall down a little bit? Fastball, changeup.
Ah, man, I don't think there's any way I can minimize my screen, is there?
I'm not
To get to
sure.
mine.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. There you go. Did that go to you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he that's about what he's at is in the 40s. He's like
Okay.
48 of 48 on my scouting.
You know what I can do? I can actually. There we go. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So
Okay, you're
fast.
looking at my team as my team right now, right?
Correct. Yeah. So fastball's a
Okay.
little bit better. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know you had the ability to do that. Learn something.
Yeah. When you're in the commissioner mode, you can pop
Okay.
in as as you. So like if I had to put a guy on DL or
Oh, yeah,
IL,
that makes
things
sense.
like that. Yeah. Exactly.
I just love his stamina and hold runners too. I
Yeah.
mean,
No. I mean,
I drafted a guy in this draft who's an 80 and an 80
let's
on
see.
those.
Yeah. Who'd you go with here? Rookie draft pool. Uh,
It was like my first or second pick. It
pulled you.
was Czech Fazina, Billy
Yeah.
Fazina.
Both of these guys I was eyeing up here. The first pick I debated, yeah, between.
It wasn't him then. It was his second pick that I
Okay,
did.
I do like this pick though. Let's chat about him for a quick second,
Yeah.
because I debated, him really hard. And just to scroll out real quick, I think I picked Fontaine, and so these two guys were really who I was kind of deciding between, and
Mhm.
they were so close. And I can't. I mean, I had to bounce back and forth between the two.
Well, yeah, I
Um,
know you liked his control, where this guy had a little bit more movement, and
yeah,
he had the 6 pitches. Because I had both of them on my board too, right next to each other. So you kind of saved me from
right. The
agonizing
decision.
like you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Um.
our scouts might see them just a little differently. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't remember exactly what my scouts saw there, but I mean, this dude, he's man, if he develops properly, he's gonna
Well,
be
you're
great.
asking a lot from my minor league system, so
I mean, you gotta love the traits, right? He throws
yeah.
over the
Well,
top.
he starts out high. Maybe he. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard if his fastball velocity starts out, you know, a decent amount when he's young, it's got more of a chance to, improve as he gets older.
Yeah, and at least sometimes you see the guys that are, you know, 88 to 90, that's a
Hmm.
little concerning, but he's got a good mix of pitches here,
Yeah, I
so
just love the fact he's got 6 pitches.
yeah, the movement's great. Yeah, I agree. I mean he looks really sweet. Um and then your other pick here is
Yeah, that guy reminds me of the first ever player I took in this league, Stankiewicz. But although Stankiewicz hasn't um, improved as much
okay,
as
yeah,
I thought he would, yeah,
this dude,
yeah,
yeah.
Hunziker.
Yeah. Yeah, he was another guy that was kind of I was debating between here after the first, but I don't think he made it to me, but no, I mean these I mean fortunately this draft has been super deep, but gotta love this guy too. Ground baller,
Yeah,
great stamina,
that's another
great.
thing. I try to go for ground ballers, especially if I'm in a stadium where home runs
Hmm.
are an
Yep.
issue.
Yep.
I have learned that intelligence isn't as much as it doesn't mean as much as people think it does. So that's
Yeah.
why I've kind of backed off on that.
Yeah, that's the part I don't know like how to fit that in. I'm not quite sure where that attribute you know lies. Is it something that allows them to develop more, similar
Hmm.
in the sense of like work ethic? So there's a couple of them that I'm not quite sure where to place them. Sometimes like adaptability. I've seen that low on a guy like like I mean, I'm going to date myself, but he just got drafted in another league, Ben Zobrist, with low
Okay.
adaptability. Like that to me, I get the game doesn't necessarily mimic real life and past
Yeah, but
events.
yeah, that guy is this definition of super sub.
Right. That's exactly was his strength. Um,
Yeah.
and so, sometimes you'll see that on guys that have multiple position, defensively. That,
But if you want to take a look at Stankiewicz real quick, he's on
yes.
AAA.
Oh yeah, yes, gotcha.
That's the guy that the other guy reminded me of,
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yep.
because he's got all those,
Yeah.
all those pitches. He's got good movement, but
Yeah.
he
Okay.
might be coming up in the
Yeah.
next couple sims. I don't know. He
Let's
hasn't pitched well so much this year down there, but
He's 23. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So
that's the thing I'm trying to learn is I don't know. I'm probably pushing these guys along because I'm not patient.
right.
But when you see he's already, 44 or 52 in my mind, that's thinking, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's close. I mean, I think at least, at whether it's after the deadline, you dish some guys out or,
hmm.
roster expansion, should be ready there. Um, hey, he's got a lot of pitches, man. Wow. Yeah, interesting.
I figure the more pitches, the more chances I have of at least 3 of them hitting.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, you're pitching. I mean, these guys. I mean, you have some arms.
That's the guy I got for Isaiah Smith from Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona won a championship with Isaiah Smith, but
it was worth it.
I was one of those guys I couldn't afford to pay everyone, so I'm like, I'll get the best deal I can. And like I said, this guy's been pretty solid for me since I've
yeah, he has. Yeah, no, he's been really good. Wow, yeah, looking solid there. I love the whip.
Yeah.
That's great.
His BABIP has done pretty well the last couple years.
Yeah,
266 this year. I don't think that's sustainable, but if it ends up at 280, I'll be ecstatic.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, man. Yeah, he looks really solid. And then let's see, you got a young guy here.
That's a different trade I made with. If you click on the trade, I traded with Arizona again.
Yeah.
But I gave him another one of my stud pitchers, that Milam.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, right. Yeah, he's worked out pretty well.
I mean,
so far this year, but
yeah.
I had him last year.
I know. It sucked to get rid of him too, but I was like, okay, he's another guy. No fastball. You just cutter, curveball.
Yeah. Michael's good with working.
But I'm like, okay, I'll grab this guy and.
Yeah, no, I like the bat. Are you playing him at DH?
Yes, yeah, because I didn't dare put him in the outfield because I was like, well.
Yep, makes sense. And this guy, he's okay, gotcha. Man,
that guy was on my team. He's so injury prone.
Yeah.
He had one season a couple years ago where he went bananas. I mean, this was like 2030, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Might have been my first year in the league. Yeah, he had 42 home runs and then fell off a cliff.
Fell off, yeah.
I mean, you add up his home runs for the next 3 years, he didn't match that year.
Right, yeah. I mean, at least you're getting. I mean, God, he's still so cheap. At least you're getting great defense and a pop in the bat.
And I like that he's a captain.
Exactly right. Yeah.
He's going to be, because that means I can afford maybe 1 or 2 knuckleheads in my locker room.
Yep.
And my guys are happy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. You got another captain here. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. How's he doing defensively? Yeah, he's struggling a little bit.
I need to pay attention to fielding a little bit more on some of these guys.
Yeah.
Especially if I have ground ball pitchers.
Yep.
But sometimes it's just difficult because you only have so much,
so much
to go around.
Yeah, it's been my kryptonite as well. It's definitely something that recently I've been paying more attention to. I would definitely say that traditionally for the first couple seasons I played here, I was lean offense and try to find the balance. I didn't necessarily want guys with Helm's defensive strategy or limitations, but I would take them if I could I could put them at first base or DH or things like that. But it has become like a tiebreaker between guys that I may like the offensive bat a little more or speed or whatever. But it's hard, man. It's really hard to find that perfect mix.
Helm is so bad defensively even at first. I don't even play him at first.
Okay, gotcha.
Which kind of kills me with roster space because I got Delgado back there
clogged up, right? Yeah,
so it kind of clogs me up, Yeah.
That's the hard part, man, is finding, you get a good bat, here. Not moving him off that, there's no reason. He's fine at first, but you got this guy that bat is just beautiful.
But, I know. Chicks dig the long ball, and I like the long ball. It's and that's what's so nice about this game, is there's so many different ways you can go at it.
Yep. 100% agree. Yeah.
I mean, he's another high leader guy, high work ethic. I don't look for production out of my catcher. I just kind of look. I know they turned down the defensive, the importance of it. Yeah. But I want a guy who can throw people out if he needs to, and preferably, like I said, if he's got high leadership,
I'm with you here, man. Like this is a perfect catcher that I would, I'd go for. I don't necessarily want to invest a ton in it. I don't, whether it's
Yeah.
draft capital. I mean, I've done it, and I will sometimes if it's
Hmm.
a profile it's hard to ignore. But whether it's free agency or trades, they're not something I generally want to invest in. But it is sometimes hard to find, a decent balance of that defense and someone that's not going to totally kill you. Um, in the batting range. But
And
yeah,
I haven't been playing this game long enough because he's surprisingly quick,
yeah, he
speed
is. Yeah, for
wise
a
for
catcher.
a
Yeah,
catcher.
yeah,
And he only got 1.8 million into him. I mean, so I can allocate that money
that's perfect, man. Yep.
other places.
It's funny. I have this guy in another league, and I love this guy. He has same things. Perfect build, right? Good catcher.
Yep.
In the other league, I have a little more. The defensive, the arm and the ability are probably like 10 more each,
Hmm.
and the bat's about the same. But he's like the perfect. He's inexpensive. He's fine offensively, but I don't have to really think about it. Plug and play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's pitching
So
is just pitching for me drives me crazy because it's so fluky from year to year.
it's yeah, and I agree. I was funny. I was chatting in Slack here with our Mets GM Rich, and we were chatting a little bit about pitching, and he was just reminding me how awful my pitching is. And I was asking him, I didn't know if he was looking in the game at or Stats Plus, and I asked him. I said, "Are you talking about performance or actual like profiles?" He said, "No, performance." I said, "I know, like this league, out of all the leagues, I get frustrated a lot, and I guess it's because I have the old curse of thinking that my team should be better than it is, and
Hmm.
and and so in this case my pitching, I'm always baffled with, why aren't they performing better. And so I've tried all the gamuts, making sure that the catcher has better ability, making sure that my infield defense, especially up the middle, is better. Trying to focus on, their tendencies, whether it's fly ball or ground ball. And it doesn't seem like it really matters. So he said the profiles look good, but their stats are awful, and they are so far to start. And my team has been, pathetic to begin the season. But yeah, pitching is a different beast, and like you said, year to year, and even sometimes just trying to
Well, yeah, like you said,
develop it.
my team's gotten off to a slow start. My team seems to round into form as the season goes on.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of, yeah, I'm not sure when I'm going to bring him up.
yeah, he
He's
looks
he
good.
wants to play playing in the majors, but I'm like, dude, you're fragile.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, he's got three pitches, which could be devastating. But how do I promote a guy who's got a 5.84 ERA with
yeah,
three,
yeah.
nearly 300 BABIP?
Well,
I mean,
no rush. At least you can bring him up again through
that, and
trade
I've
or
got so many guys out because that's what I was looking at. I was like, who do I send down? They're all out of options,
yeah. Gotcha.
and
Right,
there'll
right.
be
That.
some vulture that'll, you
Yep.
know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if
We
I
will.
put the wrong guy that's not making enough,
Yep.
you
y-
know.
You're
So I'm like,
exactly right.
okay.
So this guy, do you feel comfortable with him in like the starting role, a swingman role?
I would I would try him out as a starter at
Okay.
first. I
Yeah.
know his stamina is 45. Um, but for
Well, and
me, I've
that's
got
one
that.
of the reasons, right? I'm asking because everyone's a little different with that. Some people feel 45 is enough. I don't know the answer. I would.
I I have Navoa in the historical league you
Yeah.
started, who's
Yeah.
got a 35, and he's
Okay.
my starter.
Okay.
I pitch him 80 or 90 pitches a game. I
Okay.
think it's 80, and he puts up pretty solid numbers. I mean, he's right around a 500 pitcher, and the first couple years he was a 3 or 4 WAR guy.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
But because that league, I really paid attention to defensive players, and their zone ratings were great, and you took hits away because they were able to field it. But
Gotcha. Yeah. 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 It's interesting to me, like those things. Like I know that's you as well. Like just finding out where other people's mindset is, based around certain things, whether it's stamina. In this case, like even his arm slot. I know some people with like prefer the not to be sidearm for a starter. Again,
yeah,
I don't know the answer. I've been just kind of Frankenstein in it. Um, But
I
so
think
yeah,
it's just a lot of plug and play, and I've never seen a sidearm pitcher be a power pitcher, but maybe that's I've never in real life. I've never.
yeah, I haven't noticed that.
I mean, sidearm and then power. It just doesn't seem like those
Yeah,
two go together. But
right, right.
it's a good thing. There's so much I'm, learning. This guy's. But this was the guy I'm looking to get back because he's on rehab and he's got like
Okay.
2 days left,
Yeah, yeah,
and he's an extreme ground baller.
yeah.
Um, it's just it's
Wow, yeah, his
finding,
numbers are good. Yeah. And then how's he? Do you play him as a 2A or no?
I do. He doesn't have a. He's not a starter. He's not really on my depth chart per
Yeah,
se, one or two on in any of these positions.
gotcha.
He's
Okay,
just kind of the first pinch hitter off the bench, and you
right, that
know,
works. Yeah,
I I I will admit, as you can see, his at bats, he just gets 100 or 200 at bats depending
yeah,
on the season.
that works. I mean, if you're getting some arms out, you're getting man. Yeah, okay, yeah, you got a couple. You got
I
a
do
100.
worry that if he hits more, that I don't know if it affects his pitching or if he pitches to. I know they shows the rest over there starting, his bat or starting pitcher, but I would
Yeah,
have to think one has to do with the other a little
yeah,
bit. But
I would agree too. But I guess like Shohei Tani is kind of breaking all those things, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
he's one of those. He's the unicorn. He's why I keep on picking that Jeff Amici down there in the middle, that center
yes. Okay, I was
fielder.
gonna eye him up. Yes. All right. So, wow.
He's
Okay, 21th ranked prospect,
but
first
he's
pick.
also a pitcher too.
Okay. Yeah,
He's nothing
varsity.
special, but
Yeah, I mean, even here it looks, looks like he plays solid outfield.
yeah,
Um, and then
yeah, he's my
okay,
first round pick.
yeah,
So
it's I know that's been a topic in a couple leagues, and if you ask Arizona Mike about it, he'll have some preferences with 2A players, and I don't think he prefers to draft them or. And I might be putting words in his mouth with, necessarily how to develop them. And I may be getting him confused with Ryan from a different league, but yeah, I struggle with 2A players. I don't know what to do with them. And I have one here. Let me bounce back. I like this guy. I like this guy's bat at least. You know,
yeah,
um,
yeah, I got lucky. He's an international free agent signing. He hasn't imploded yet for me.
yeah. No, real quick before I switch
He's
over,
still young.
man. You got a couple nice bats. That guy
That's
was looking
another guy I
for.
got from Mike for
Yeah,
one of the trades I made him.
yeah. He
That's
looks
for
solid.
that
Y-
Smith guy I
Yeah,
traded.
right. Makes sense. Real quick before I bounce out of here, your international complex looks great. A couple guys down there that look
Now,
wow.
see, you say it looks great, but for me, it's like I've got a bunch of bums on the team. I mean, I've got those four guys, but I haven't had any luck
Okay, we have to
getting
develop them.
those guys up to the major league.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard because they're so young, so
Yeah.
much can happen, and I get that. I find the same thing.
And as you can see, a lot of times in other leagues, I've got like 100 guys in the one league, in the one
Yeah,
spot.
right, right, right.
It's like, how do you know? I don't know. That's where I've got to learn is when do I move them up?
Yeah. Well, I know naturally they'll move when they reach
Turn 20.
yeah, right. So I know that's a case, and I usually let it auto evolve. I generally don't pull them out of there, but I'm sure there's someone that has a better answer than that.
Oh, auto evolves. That means they handle moving them between AA, AAA.
Yeah, that and just that natural promotion at 20.
Well, see, I've tried doing that, like with like letting them decide when to move guys up or move guys down.
Yeah.
But like, look here, it says Amici should be
Oh,
moved up. Wouldn't you think they're that they would take care of that? Then that's what I don't understand how that works when they decide he's ready to move up.
yeah. So I know there's a whole philosophy on how to handle the minor leagues, and I was doing it for a little bit, like particularly during the pandemic when we had more time. And I'd go through and set it all up personally, and weed out guys that were let's say like these guys, 27-year-olds that are rated
Yeah,
20,
I do the
especially
bloodletting
right.
in different leagues too.
Yeah, yeah. So that
But as you can see, I've got 19 guys on that roster.
right, exactly. Yeah. But I've been guilty, man. Like, I'm just gonna switch over to my team real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I've been guilty of just simply doing this guy. AI set up the whole complete minor system, league system. It's not something I like really prefer or want to do all the time, but it does save me a little bit of time. And if I find that like someone really shifts, then I can always go in and adjust it. But for
Mhm.
the most part, I find that like around those times of like ending spring training and then sometimes the deadline, getting guys or even roster call ups, they might shift naturally some guys that aren't quite ready just to fill in some bodies on whatever portion of the organization it is, AAA, double A, whatever. So a lot of times just it's kind of like reset it. I'll hit ask AI to set up a complete minor league system. And I mean, I don't know, I know it's not the way that's recommended, but it tends to work okay, for the way I handle the team. Um, but I was coming in here actually to share. So this guy I drafted to 28, 24th pick overall, first round. I was all excited because he's also a two-way player. This
Uh-huh.
dude's a beast, 6'8", 255.
Holy smokes, 6'8". Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and like his hitting tool, um, it's fine, right? He's progressed okay, I guess. But like at least he's consistent. His bars are solid. I play him against lefties mostly, at first base and just let him play there.
Mhm.
And as a pitcher, he's okay. Actually, he developed a little bit better than I expected. Nothing
Mhm.
great, but he throws 100 miles an hour, decent stamina, decent runners. Um, has a couple pitches. But oops, sorry, that's not what I was trying to go to. Um, um, and he's consistent righty versus lefty there. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know, like same thing. Like he's probably the best it's ever developed, and it's not a brag, it's just like pure luck. But I
Yeah.
barely use him. The dude has last year he's definitely played more than any other year for me with 400 at bats, and this year he's got 35, so he's played in a couple of the started 7
Mhm.
games so far. But he's a perfect example of I don't know if the draft was current, if he was there in the 24th, if I would favor him over a non two-way player.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like you said, I'd look at one side and try to, if I get the bonus of having the other side, okay. But if I can live with them, if he's going to be a pitcher, I want him to be a pitcher.
yeah,
If his bat develops, whatever. If not, as long as he develops as a
right. At
pitcher.
least it's one. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so funny.
And vice versa.
Yeah, as you can hear, I have a dog. I have a couple dogs. But that dog never barks. That dog is amazingly silent and only barks when a squirrel runs across the roof or someone's at the door. And even then, it usually doesn't bark. So yeah, I'm curious, but also hoping he quiets down. So I apologize for the barking. So all right, so we're in a rebuild mode. And your division's interesting because really you have the Reds that are really tough.
Yeah,
The Cardinals,
Cincinnati are always killing
yeah,
us.
yeah. The Cardinals are up and coming. I know we have a good GM in there now, and
Hmm.
that they should be taking over. And Pittsburgh was good last year, and I have confidence in the way Jordan's running it. And Milwaukee with Kyle. So yeah, you have a pretty tricky division, and I found the same. My division's been killer since since the start really. Um, but it looks
My
like
thing is, I need to find a way to get out of that middle zone. Like
right.
last year, I went 82 and 80,
Yep,
missed
yep,
the playoffs.
yeah.
I wasn't bad enough to get a high pick, but I also wasn't that. I also lost my closer there, that Ed Bailey or Ed Riley or whatever,
Right. And
before the season started.
is this dude your starting shortstop?
I think so.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to, I seen those infield ratings and I was
Mhm.
like, and he's a fan favorite.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
just recently learned that, yeah, this guy was my,
Yeah, your
he
closer.
was my closer
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
I lost him before the season started, so that kind of
It's
sucked.
always
But
fun. Yeah. But
yeah,
going back, you're saying you started to learn about the fan favorite.
yeah, I didn't realize that would increase my,
Mm, ticket
indirectly
sales.
my attendance and
Yeah.
everything else. So I was just getting rid of guys like, oh, his fan favorite. Okay, they'll
Right.
be upset and they'll come
Yeah.
back. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just, there's always always something learning on here.
Which is what I love about the game, right?
Yeah.
And so, like you said early on, is that you can handle, the way you build a team a bunch of different
Mhm.
ways. And obviously sometimes you have to take into account like where you are, if you're in a park like Cincinnati versus a park like, Oakland, you can handle it differently with both, your pitching and your hitting. And then
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's different, if
Is
you're
it possible for Rickett to die? I mean, if you look at go back to that last screen there,
yeah,
I mean, I'm 30th in budget.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm only paying 102. So I actually have some room to maneuver this next year, but I
Yeah,
mean, come on, man. You
yeah.
want me to fight against, there's guys that they've got that in like 4 players on their team.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and I'm not an expert on the budget, and how to increase. I mean, because you have, a pretty solid base
Yeah.
here, you know.
It's based, I think, on how much revenue you bring in. And then, I think it also depends on your own owner. Like he's an economizer, so he's never going to be
Right.
here, take a bunch of money,
Yeah. Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. It
He
makes
wants me
sense.
to a winning record, and I think that helps. If I get a winning record, but like you see, my attendance hasn't been horrible.
No, yeah, yeah. No, you're solid.
Almost about 3 million every year the last 4 or 5 seasons. So I don't
Yeah.
know what more he wants, but
Yeah, that
he's
part's tricky.
69. So
Right. Well, let's cross our fingers and hope.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, but there definitely is some decent minds in the league as far
Hmm.
as like how to manage that aspect, and as far as like bringing up the budget and things like that. It's definitely not my expertise. Not I'm always learning ticket prices, all that kind of stuff.
I didn't know Jim Corso was disruptive. What a butthole.
Yeah, sometimes it's funny. It's not listed here, which is where
Yeah.
we want it listed. And we've seen it sometimes. Um, and you already put a Q offer on him, right? Yeah, we received a QO on him.
Yeah, I did this year. Thing is, he jumped and he was only making like $8 million, and I'm
Right.
like, there's no way he's going to take this
Yeah.
$16 million deal. I might get a pick out of this.
Right,
He's
right.
like, nope.
Yep.
Try again,
I've
sucker.
I have failed so many times at that where I'm just like, this is going to be easy. He's asking for 20 million, a year, and he's not going to take the 16 million, and I'll be happy to get that pick. And of course they take it, and then I'm screwed because I don't really want the dude. But
Yep.
yeah. Well, in the commercial that it is for the Chicago Cubs here, maybe we can ask the editors to delete the scene where everyone sees he's disruptive.
Nah, no, it don't bother me one way or the other. He's I probably wouldn't get much more than a bucket of balls from him at this point, the way he's kind of pitching this
Yeah.
year. But
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
he'll get better just before the trade deadline. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. I'm
Yeah.
not
I
going to
think
get too worried about Court or whatever Corso. Just
Yeah. I think if you make a couple trades, like you're in pretty decent shape here.
yeah, like I said, I think I just got to maneuver this rocky part of the year where guys are underperforming.
Right.
Like the old saying goes, they're gonna, like the back of their baseball cards, I have to believe they're going to turn it on and eventually do what they've normally done. So
Right. Yeah.
just need
And
a few breaks here or there.
I mean, the good thing is like some of your strength is your pitching, right? So
Yeah.
if you have, if you're willing to shed some of these guys, which, obviously you're in a situation to do, then you can easily, change I mean, man, you're dropping off. The only guys you would have really are these two guys, Juarez and
And
Gopher.
Donnie, I got to figure out a way to get Donahue signed after this year to a team friendly deal, because even though he's fragile, I mean, he's done
Yeah.
pretty well
Wow.
for me
Yeah.
the
No, it's
last
been
couple.
solid. Yeah. Wow. It's been great. Yeah. 49 home runs, 36 home runs. Yeah.
I'm afraid he's going to go. I just don't want him to go below 36 this year, because I don't want to see a trend, because every year he's gotten a little bit worse.
Gotcha. Right.
But
Yeah, but he's been solid, man.
I will admit, it's probably not a good thing doing it, but I don't spend as much time on either of my other 2 leagues as I do the Tigers.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because I'm connected to them.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even know there was you said there through which league do I prefer, historical, current, or what's the other one?
Yeah, I guess those two or well, I guess like a fictional league. I haven't done any of those, but I
Yeah.
know some people like, like superhero teams and things like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah,
See,
one,
I'm like, when you gave me the three options, I said I didn't even know that third one was an
yeah,
option.
yeah. I've been invited to some. I just haven't joined because honestly, like the way these games progress and they progress so quickly, whether they're daily sim leagues, we'll fly through a month, in 4 days.
Mm,
And so the teams become fictional pretty quickly anyway.
yeah.
But I don't necessarily need them to be named of wrestlers, or
Yeah. Yeah.
things like that.
I also got to wonder where they get the databases for those.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no clue because I struggle with just trying to get the schedule uh mixed up and not the same every year and trying to go into the schedule database and things
Yeah,
like
see, I
that.
didn't know you had to do that. I thought the game automatically did that for you every year.
It will auto evolve to some degree, except the problem is that it will only, like in this particular league, it will only shuffle the like the schedule. It won't shuffle the teams. So like if you play the AL East every year,
Oh, you'll
then
play them every year. You
correct,
won't.
yeah,
You won't
right.
switch to like the AL Central. Okay.
That's correct. So what I was simply doing was, if we started off in a 2021 schedule, then, the next year I would switch it to the 2019 schedule and, blah, 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 blah. Now, sometimes the hard part about that is that a few of those seasons had the games that were played in, Japan or Mexico City. And so for online leagues, it's not that great when you have, two games the week prior to everyone else and they have a whole week in between, so that
Oh, yeah.
that eliminates like a lot of seasons in there. And I don't know exactly where, but like from like, I don't know, let's just say 2008 to 2000, 14, there's a game that starts way earlier. And so trying to get that consistency of where we start on either a Thursday or a Monday and everyone plays for the most part. And but yeah, that part is definitely tricky. But um
So do
yeah.
you only have these three leagues?
I'm in 7 total.
Are you a
um
glutton for punishment?
I know, and it's tricky because I get offered sometimes to be in other ones. As much as I would like to do it, I can just hang on to 7, especially being a part of commissioning in some way in 3 of them. This one I obviously do solo as far as a commissioner goes, and so there's pros and cons to that. But I do like the other leagues where there's some helping hands, especially with my
Yes.
weird schedule. But yeah, like every league has a different um need, I guess, as far as how much TLC they need and where my team is. I
Hmm.
definitely say 1 or 2 of my leagues is pretty much at this point. I check in, make sure no one's hurt, and do a couple little tweaks, and while the other leagues need a little more
Yeah, yeah.
involvement and stuff.
That's why I'm kind of with. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
spend. I'll spend the most time on the Tigers. This team will be second, and then the A's are kind of like the third team. They get kind of a half
short
an
end of the
hour every
stick.
day, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you know.
It's hard, and this is, again, going back and tying it all in. That's one of the things that when there's activity in the league, it definitely keeps it going. And that's one great thing
Mhm.
about our historical league that we're in, is that there's it's pretty active, and you're a big key to that. And in in COVID in particular, this particular league, I know that for me, I'm kind of hot and cold with my involvement in general, whether that's on social media or whether it's with friends through phone calls or texts or obviously in
Mhm.
Slack. I have my moments where I'm hot or cold. And so again, I just felt that, hey, let's find a way to
Yep.
get people involved, give people a reason to maybe check it out. And if they don't want to, that's fine too, but at least it's there and we get to hear voices and get to learn a little bit and maybe laugh, have some fun, whatever. um but awesome, man. Well, for the sake of not dragging out too long and boring everyone to death, I think we covered a pretty decent amount. Is there anything that you like wanted to chat about, or anything that we missed, or anything that
Uh, Trying to think. Not really. I mean, it's just always learning. And I apologize in advance to people I've reached out to in chat because I ask a million questions because I'm always trying to get,
Dude, that's the way
like,
to
I'll
do it,
ask
man.
people like, hey, what's your opinion on this trade? What would you do? Or, do you think this guy's trying to rip me off? Or,
No. Shane,
it's just,
your best attribute in any of this is that you're involved, and
yeah.
so I think everyone loves it. I mean, again, going back to, the involvement that you have with, Tim and the leagues that, you guys can, throw barbs and laugh about it, and that's part of it, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Like I still hang on to some fantasy leagues strictly because it keeps me, connected to people. And so,
Mhm.
even though I'm not involved heavily in a lot of the chat and any of the Slack leagues, again, I go hot and cold with it. It is definitely more enjoyable when there's people involved. So whether it's just saying hi or whether it's engaging like that, I think that's a great thing. So you don't have to apologize for being involved and asking questions. I think and you want to learn, which is great.
Yeah. And one final thing is, I haven't checked. How are we doing on our little challenge in that historical league?
As far as
Remember, you said our strikeouts
oh
for
yeah,
our.
yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check that. That's
I was
fine.
ahead of you the other day, but I didn't check to
Yeah.
see how. I figured around All-Star break, so I'll have to pop on that later and check and see how we're doing against each other.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, I'm gonna guess I'm losing because my team, the only two teams that are worse than me are the expansion teams that started this year. So,
Well,
that's
I I'm trying to. I've been kind of playing hokey pokey with Dobson, trying to trade him, but driving Tim nuts because Tim wants him, and I think I'm gonna hang on to him now.
yeah. Well, it's yeah, I'm in similar fashion with some players where it probably makes sense to trade them, but I don't know. I in my brain I can compete quicker than I probably will.
Well,
But
look at Boston.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, they were bad for so many years, and in theory, you pick up near the top, you should eventually stop picking near the top.
right, yeah.
I mean, after
But
a while, it's like, come on, man, poop
well,
or get off the pot
maybe I'll
is
get there
my.
one time. Yeah.
Yeah. I picked in the top three one time, and that was enough for me, but I kind of want to again, but I don't want to get my brains bashed in all year either,
Yeah. Well, that's where
you
I'm
know.
at. So
And
I
that's
wish.
where the historical league, my preference is probably historical, but the one
Yeah.
drawback to historical is people figure out who's in the next draft class.
Right.
And I've known a few people who have tanked it.
Right.
So they knew, to get the
Yeah.
guy they want. I'm like, well, I don't want to get beat down that
Yeah.
much. So,
The only thing I would say, is before that pool is revealed, and that's not until basically spring training, is that
yeah.
even if guys like A-Rod or so and so are coming out,
Hmm.
that the simulation doesn't always equal real life, and
Yeah.
so, but at the same time, you still know a general vicinity of,
Yeah.
these players, Chipper Jones and Manny Ramirez, and these guys are going to be good. That's one thing, this year I'm super happy with, the draft class here is
Uh huh.
super impressive.
It was fairly deep. I think last year's was pretty horrible
And it
in
generally has been.
comparison.
Yeah, and it's been relatively weak I find in this league compared to some others. Usually we'll get, a couple, guys in the 70s and 60s, when most of them end up being, down here in the 50s,
Hmm.
which we're still drafting in the fifth or sixth round almost. Maybe a little lower at this point. But the I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but and it wasn't on purpose, but it will be later in future. I mean, where the draft pool reveal was a little bit later than it normally is. And I'm kind of learning from the other leagues, and you've seen the issues we've had with the draft pools being revealed in the historical league, and they come out way too early, and then we have to
Yeah.
delete them and blah 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 blah, and it's just a struggle between the game settings and our draft timing. And so I think, and again, I'm just taking a wild guess here, that pushing it out a little bit later might help these draft pools just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I get it, like, sometimes it's unrealistic to have, uh, five guys in the 80s come out in the same year, but it's way more fun to draft that way, that's for sure. And they
Oh,
always don't
yeah.
develop.
Yeah. It just sucks for the pitching because you know they're going to take a beating.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, dude, listen, man, I appreciate
Yeah,
your time.
thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for your patience as we got
Oh, no
started here.
problem.
And yeah, and I'm super happy. Not only you did this, but you're involved in all the leagues, and
Oh, I appreciate you bringing me along for the ride.
it's awesome, man. No, I enjoy it. I'm so happy that it's a good fit, and yeah, it's good stuff, brother. So I'll see you on the interwebs, and I'll try to figure out how to get this thing up and active, and
Okay, and
maybe.
I look forward to listening to the next one.
Sweet, man. Yeah, a couple people showed some interest, and we'll see if we can get them on.
I'm sure it'll be fun.
Awesome, dude. Shane, thank you so much, man. I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Yep. Bye
All right,
bye.
brother. Later.